Hello, and welcome to A Ghost in the Magazine. I'm Stef.
And I'm Elle.
And if you listened to the last episode, then you know that we were planning on continuing Warren Month this week. But sadly, we had to sort of derail that train and push it to next week because our beloved Gothic fairy godmother, Anne Rice, sweet, beautiful soul, left this earth at 80 years old, and a bitch was devastated. So we decided to take this episode and revisit Anne because we talk about her a lot on this podcast. As much as Daddy Cage is king here, Anne Rice is queen. And I can't promise I'm not going to weep dramatically during this episode, especially since I've been having a bad time at life. So
Aw. We'll be okay. We'll get through it. Why don't we so for me, I don't wanna just dwell on the sad parts. Yes, we're losing someone who is actively still creating great shit. And that, that's a huge loss. But I want to go circle back and celebrate the oddness, the strangeness, the wonderfulness that was Anne Rice's work. I'm going to read. Steph never read the Mayfair trilogy, which is a love, just a complete love hate for me. I love it, but it makes me so mad. And I'm looking through the Wikipedia synopsis of it, and I just want to read a paragraph for Steph and just get her reaction. So, okay. Lasher's plan comes to fruition at the end of the witching hour when he invades Rowan's unborn fetus and is reborn. The baby is genetically a non-human ancient species called the Taltos, which is, quote, the superhuman result of the crossbreeding of two human witches who possess an extra chromosome, unquote. The infant Lasher immediately grows to adulthood, and Publishers Weekly describes this creature as, quote, almost a monster, capable of beastly behavior, fueled by an extraordinary sex drive, unquote. He rapes Rowan, his mother, in this scenario, repeatedly in Lasher to create more Taltos. But the attempts end in violent miscarriages. He also rapes her entire family, hoping that he can reproduce with this whole line of Mayfairs. I'm just adding that one in. And then Rowan finally conceives and gives birth to a Taltos daughter, Emilith, but ultimately kills her, which is the right thing in that, unfortunately. Michael, her disgusting piece of shit spouse, fathers another Taltos with Rowan's cousin Mona Mayfair, a daughter she names Morgan in Taltos.
The ungodly sound that just came out, and you didn't see it because you were looking, but the quickness with which I stopped smiling after you started reading was unnatural. And I remember seeing the books Lasher and Taltos and always saying, I'm gonna read those someday. But damn, I had no idea. I had no idea. Well, now I have to. I'm going to read everything that she's ever written because I owe that to her. You know,
Same.
I wish I would have done it when I had the flexibility of being a 14-year-old and no time, nothing on my agenda except going to school, eating, and reading. But
Same.
Here I am, 31, and that's what we're going to do here. And you said Mona Mayfair, and I just this is embarrassing, but I'm going to share it with the internet, and I already told Elle about this. But the reason I never read the Mayfair Witches is because I was jealous of Mona Mayfair, not because I wanted to be her. I don't. I would never choose that life, even without knowing that. I just wouldn't choose that for myself. Her family life seemed really fucked up in general, on a brief surface level. But she is in, because I know that the Mayfair Witches crossed with Vampire Chronicles in various books. But where she got me fucked up was she stole my literary boyfriend, Tarquin Blackwood, in Blackwood Farms, which is hands down right underneath Memnote the Devil for me. Blackwood Farms is incredible, but it's because Quinn Blackwood is he was literally I don't even think he was a musician, and he did some off the wall shit, but he very much embodied the essence of every like high school band guy that I had a crush on. He just seemed like that. And the fact that he comes in contact with Lestat and just, but she, alas, she stole him. And so I was like, well, fuck you. That's how teenagers think. Teenagers who are in love with boys,
Book boys.
unfortunately. But one thing I can say is that Anne Rice, she did this exceptionally well. She built these characters with so many deep layers
Like
and
even
all
the
of these
ones you hate.
relationships.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like I don't hate Mona because I feel like, you know, when you read the Mayfair trilogy, you might have a different opinion. I feel
Well,
like
also,
she was
I'm
abused.
31.
Yeah,
I'm a
that
grown
too.
up now. So.
That too. She was definitely, like, in my opinion, I actually kind of like stepped away from Anne Rice's work a little bit after I read those because I thought it was yikes the way she was treated like an adult when she was a child. Like she was seducing her uncle, which is fucked. Like her uncle raped her. That was a child. That's disgusting. And, you know, whatever that choice was, I'm not going to get into that now. But like I think the only character I can say that I hate more than Michael is like Angel Clare from Tessa the D'Urbervilles. And I fucking hate Angel Clare with like the fiery passion of 1,000 Suns. I think he's the only one grosser than Michael. Michael is disgusting. And the thing is you grow to hate Michael. At least I did. It was this 3-book trilogy and they're Anne Rice books. They're books.
They're thick boys.
And you start out, he's just like a boring white dude. You just picture him as like any other boring dude.
It's interesting that his name is Michael because I have been plagued by bad Michaels in my life. Literally now I see it as a warning sign. Men, I mean, I don't have Tinder right now because men are trash to me right now. But if your name is Michael, I will swipe left. I don't care how good you look. I don't care what your job is. I won't do it. Any version of like a Spanish version, a German version, no. Miguel, absolutely not. No. So I think that's funny.
Fair. Oh my gosh. There's just, yeah. But the way that every character in the Vampire Chronicles, like you have
All
an
of them.
opinion. You have an opinion one way or another, even if she's so good with character building.
And world building, like and lore building, and this is shit that we eat up. This is stuff that we live for. You, especially in the early episodes of this podcast, you will frequently hear Elle go, what do you say, like what is the myth here, like what is the
what's the rules, what's the lore here,
what's
like I
the
don't
lore?
get it.
What are the rules? And she has very defined rules, and Lestat breaks all of them, and I love him for let's talk about Lestat for a minute, because he's the brat prince of the Savage Garden. He is the ultimate character, and he just finds himself in all of these characters' lives. And so the thing that really got me, and this probably lends to like what you're saying about how she wrote Mona Mayfair, a lot of the choices that Anne Rice made were based on her life. And like, I think it was Interview with the Vampire that she said, you know, parts of that are really real and they came from my childhood. And I think it's interesting because that started off as just a short story, and then she turned that shit into a full-length novel that literally blew everybody's faces off. And she means business. Okay, she's a tiny little New Orleans woman with so much spirit inside of her, and she set out to make her books works of art. Her influences, name a few off:
Dickens, Woolf, John Milton, Ernest Hemingway, William Shakespeare, the Bronte sisters, Jean-Paul Sartre, Henry James, Arthur Conan Doyle, H. Rider Haggard, and Stephen King.
Of course, Stephen King, and we we definitely gushed over that a little bit, but she said she had every intention for her work to stand next to those as classic American literature, and people laughed at her for it because of the nature of her writing. But who says that vampires can't be gothic? sexy, and classic. Who said? And those rules she broke.
Mm-hmm.
She demolished those. Nobody can tell Anne Rice anything.
Yeah, I think. Well, the thing about Anne Rice is like I like a lot of shitty books though too. So it's like I always just like second guess my taste. But
No.
like I can just like get so engrossed in her books and just it's like really like you said, it's so complete. Everything it just like
Mm-hmm.
pulls you in so much and you get so emotionally invested in the
Yes.
story and the characters and the way things turn out. I know, Steph had Quinn Blackwood. I had Louis. Louis was my because he's the ultimate emo boy.
It's true.
And I didn't read that till I was an adult either. I
And
still
you
have
were like,
a
oh, hot
football
damn.
crush, yeah.
And Brad Pitt played him so well. Like,
He did.
I couldn't imagine anybody else playing Louis.
And like I actually like didn't want like anything about that movie because I was so pissed at the casting of Lestat that I like wanted to hate the whole movie, but I
But
couldn't.
you can't. You can't.
Yeah.
And even Tom Cruise as Lestat, even though all you have to do is start listening to this podcast and no, we don't do that. It's still a choice that doesn't kill the movie at all.
It doesn't. It doesn't. I think God, that's like probably one of my favorite like movies to revisit around, in October. So
Yes, and I have both that one and Queen of the Damned on DVD,
mhm.
and I'm literally going to fire those up. I took myself into sleep tonight. When I found out about this after a long drive home from my parents' house. They had a Christmas party this weekend, and so I drove almost 5.5 hours to come home to Miami, and I got in my apartment, I laid down, and I opened my phone, and I follow her on Facebook. I live by her updates because I love her. She posts fucking novels as her Facebook statuses, and she always addresses it people of the page. And every time I'm like, that's me, I'm present. What do you need to tell me today, Queen? And it was her son, Christopher, letting everybody know that she had passed from complications to a stroke. So I immediately started crying and I texted our lovely Jay, and I was like, because I had texted him so other things, and I was like, and Anne Rice died. And I went on Twitter and I saw that he had already tweeted from our magazine page, and I was like, you already know. And I texted Elle, and then my sister actually tagged me in it because she knows how hard I ride for Anne. And she texted it to me, and I sent her a video of myself, like my face covered in tears, holding my little Sally doll. And I was like, I'm okay. I'm okay.
Aww.
And she was like, let's go to her celebration of life next year. We've never been to New Orleans together. And I was like, please, because all I can think about in that moment was, I'm never going to get to go to a vampire ball in October with Anne there. And then the next thought was, she's never going to get to see the Vampire Chronicles TV show because someone bought the rights to it, and her son have been working diligently on it. And it's something I literally have been waiting for since I was 14, for someone to do this right. And she's been waiting her whole life.
That's sad.
Yeah, I was sad. Like,
yeah. I found out from your text message, and then I got on socials after that, and yeah, I was sad because like I said, she's still producing stuff. Her last novel was like 2018 too, or 2019. Like
that was not long ago.
it wasn't.
And if she, and I'm sure she is because she's been a writer for forever, she like did plays as a little girl that her and her sisters would act out. But I know I have tons of like notes and things of story ideas that are like half thought out, and I have to scribble them down really quick. I couldn't imagine the amount that is left unfinished for her. And my selfish dream is that her son will pick up everything that she's got, because I know that if that was my mom, I would dedicate the rest of my life to making sure that everything she had came out, because my
Mm-hmm.
own mother never got her GED. She didn't graduate from high school, and I always, my goal was anything that she felt like she wanted to do, I would try to make happen for her. Like, she prefers audiobooks because reading gives her migraines. And so I got a freaking subscription to this thing that has any audiobook you can think of,
Mm-hmm.
and I share that with her because I know that's something small, but like I never want her to feel like she can't do something that she wants, you
Mm-hmm.
know? And I hope, and if he doesn't, that's okay too, because he's his own man with his own dreams. But as a selfish little fan,
Mm-hmm.
that's my hope.
I was just reading this though that there are comics and manga that have been adapted from the Vampire Chronicles, and I've never seen those, and I'm very interested.
That
Like,
sounds vaguely familiar, and I feel like I may have seen a manga at some point in my life.
oh wow, they're pricey. Wow.
I can imagine. And that's another thing I thought of. I said, now that she is gone, there's probably going to be a stampede of people like clamoring to start reading her books. And we have a magazine. Like, we're not ones to gatekeep literature by any means. And that's something I think is wonderful, that maybe people who didn't know what she was like before, now they'll pick up an Anne Rice book,
Mm-hmm.
and she was not afraid to write whatever came out of her brain.
Oh, never mind. This isn't even the manga. It's some like collector's edition of the Vampire Lestat.
Oh,
it's
oh,
it's 1046.69. Nice.
no. I'm sorry, I cannot.
uh,
But her writing did not exist just within this box. It wasn't just Vampire Chronicles, and it wasn't just Mayfair Witches. It was also, she did like Ramses the Damned, The Mummy, which
mhm.
I loved. And I don't, I've said it so many times, like everybody's probably sick of hearing it, but I'm not into romance. But the way that she does it, I eat it up. Like, it's just so, it's just so good. She also wrote under other names too, like Anne Rampling. I forget which one she did
Mhm.
under that name, but then also the
They're
Sleeping
erotica.
Beauty series.
Yeah.
Yeah, I never read those, but oh boy, will I now.
Mhm.
I feel like I have to read everything.
Maybe we should do like a reading challenge and like try to read these together and like read everything.
I'm single. I live in a new city. I have nothing but time. All I do is work. So I'm into that. Did you ever read The Mummy?
I didn't. I have it. I did get it. I buy a lot of books with intention of having time to read and then
Same.
don't.
And all of them are like at my mom's house.
Oh yeah.
But I need them. Like, I need them, especially these. I have my Vampire Chronicles collection is not complete. I want to complete it.
Same.
And the other book that I read, which I really didn't expect to enjoy it as much as I did, because at one point, I think when she was 15, because she grew up Catholic,
Mhm.
she was like disillusioned from the church, as we are very familiar with, former church kids, bah. But so there was a period of her writing where she was an atheist, and I feel like you can tell. And then she came back to Jesus, and she wrote those two books about Jesus's life and then death. And I only read the first one. I only read like him growing up, but it was
Mhm.
so beautiful. Like, it was so beautifully written, and I felt like that was her, like, don't hate me for saying this, but like her homage and apology, like dedication to Christ, because she fell off and came back and
Mhm.
found him in a way that was special to her.
Yeah.
And that feels really private.
She had those two books and then she left the church again, and later she considered herself a secular humanist but still had her faith because she just like disagreed with the church. I mean, I
And
get that.
that's literally where I am,
Mhm.
because, not to turn this into one of them episodes, but
Most of
all
the
of this,
episodes are one of them.
I just think it's important for people to have this kind of spiritual journey where they figure out what spirituality means to them without the aggressive influence of like pastors and things like that, because there are some who are good and teach about love and caring about each other, and then there are some that literally demonize everything that you do, everything that makes you a human being. And I have a really hard time believing someone who abuses children, anything that they have to say. I have a hard time believing what they say has merit, and you can argue and say not every blah 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 blah. That's not the point. The point is, like, Catholicism is considered top tier, and that's where it happens the most. Like top tier in Christianness.
Yeah. Well,
Like they make the rules. They make the Vatican makes the rules. How did
Yeah.
you get to make the rules?
Women don't need to be broodmares anymore. We can be treated like human beings.
Humans. And that's just not a thing that they agree with. And some like regular churches even are like, women can't preach or whatever. But I can tie this all neatly into Anne Rice-ness. So that's exactly what happened with the Queen of the Vampires, with Akasha, because she wanted power, and she ended up being the top, like, the head bitch in charge, mama to all the vampires. And she did bad things. And like her shit was supposed to be law, and she literally killed a bunch of her kids and did not give a shit and ate humans like they were fucking Skittles.
You sure did. I think that, Anne Rice would have been like such a fascinating person to talk to. Like, just, I'd have so many questions to ask her. It's too bad that, that's past, all that. There's so many fans too.
I know. The fandom is deep. And I read an interview once where she was talking about how at her signings she's the most boring person there, because people come decked out dressed as vampires. They're in leather, lace, velvet handcuffs, and she's just soaking that shit up. She's like, this right here is my shit. I love that. And I was telling my friend when I was saying why I was sad that literally all of this, the podcast, me knowing out, whatever, is because of writing, right? The magazine is all because I love to write. And when I was in high school, I was on the school newspaper, and I wrote Anne Rice an email about how much I loved her and how much I loved her books and how much she inspired me. And I just gushed a full page email, and I sent it to her. And I got a response that was so, I wish, but I was a stupid like 16-year-old. So obviously I didn't keep it or still have access to the email. But I don't remember most of what it said, but it definitely encouraged me to keep writing. And I did. And I think about it all the time. Literally the reason why I am right here is because of Anne Rice. And I just hope she knows, or she knew when she passed away, like how many lives she touched and how beautiful she is.
For me, like any writer that can get me mad and obsessed and all of the many emotions she got out of me, like, what a freaking like master at what she did. She's just amazing.
Legendary.
And it wasn't because her writing was bad. Like, I have no critiques. Like,
no, it's wonderful. The care with which she described each one of Lestat's outfits, and the way his like golden mane and his violet eyes and his glass nails. And you know what she did to me, Elle? When Daytona Beach opened up Tanger Outlets and they brought all these stores I had never seen before, and I rolled up and I saw a Brooks Brothers, I was like, those are those suits Lestat wears, bro. A Brooks Brothers? I thought she made that shit up because I'm trash. I had no idea.
I didn't either until you just talked.
That's what Anne Rice did to me.
So we have the two movies, and you can go back in, and we have covered those two movies pretty extensively. I think
Yes.
we hit them on 31 Days of Horror the first year we did the podcast, and then we went back and did Queen of the Damned with Allie because everyone was in love with Aaliyah. Rightfully
God,
so.
like that's the really like the best part of that movie because well, we won't. We won't get ourselves started again.
But we're going to be covering that mini series when it comes out. We're going to be making a exception. It's going to happen.
Yeah, it has to, because I especially now, like I am going into that show ready to fight everybody, ready to fight everyone, because there's just so much care she's taken with her plot and her characters and her world. This is Anne's world, and if they don't do it right, they're gonna catch these little tiny hands right in the mouth.
Well, her son's probably still involved, and he,
sure.
Worked really close with her, so I'm hoping for the best. I'm, whatever it is, just like of all the flaws we found with the other two movies, I think that we both have, there's value to them. We still love them. We still watch them again. So
I still have them on DVD, and they're never going anywhere. I just, especially now. So wherever you are listening to this, take a moment of silence for Anne Rice. I'm sad.
Oh, I'm sorry. I wish I wasn't across the country and I could hug you.
Me too. But it's okay. I think that's all we've got in our pockets for this episode. So, next episode we'll be back on our bullshit with The Devil Made Me Do It.
I don't want him to make me do it. I don't want.
Okay. Only 2 episodes left. We can do this.
We've got it.
Alrighty. You can follow this podcast on Twitter at GITM Podcast. You can follow me on Twitter at WitchXPudding.
And you can follow me at Nocturnical.
Okay, bye.